Welcome. This is Marie Wade, and this is the Zoom talk with two amazing guys that I know. We have Steve Matley, who is the president of Coast to Coast, and David Corson, the guy who started the construction summit in Jacksonville, Florida, that I was in this year. And I was so excited to be a part of that event, David. And this is, I think, the first time you and Steve are meeting each other. So welcome, both of you.
Welcome.
Yes. So I'm going to go ahead and start with you, David, because I just wanted to let people know how you and I met. And I believe it's through Meredith Allen. Meredith introduced me to you, and she told me about your big event on Jacksonville, Florida. And you had this amazing fun event that I experienced. You had over, I believe, almost 150 people in there. Am I right? Or more than that? I don't know.
180.
180. There you go. And you had a lot of great people. I remember meeting the guy who was in charge of the in and out business in there. It was incredible. I had such a great time talking to him. And I'm sure there's a lot more people that I met that I just have to remember. But I really want to thank you for that opportunity, by the way. I want to take this time now because I don't want to forget about it. And then that was also the time that you and Steve talked on the phone. We were all on a conference call, and you explained to us what the construction summit. So I'm going to actually ask you to just go ahead and give us more information about the overall goal of the construction summit and what your plans for that event.
Well, right now, that was back in January, and we have the summit. We do a couple of executive retreats. We have our monthly cocktail receptions. A lot of my events have been they're frozen right now just because of the pandemic.
Yes.
But I did do my site visits at the end of February down in Fort Lauderdale. So I'm scheduled for January 13th to the 15th at the B Ocean right down on the beach in Fort Lauderdale for the 2021 summit. We were supposed to do our women's retreat in early August, but because once again, they canceled South by Southwest, which was 250,000 people and $350 million worth of revenue. I was supposed to do my site visits March 24th, I think. I just decided, you know what? We don't know what's going to happen. I had my commercial version in October in Milwaukee. So I decided, I'm going to push the women's event. I'm going to co-locate those together. And hopefully by then people will be able to travel and so forth, which I have no idea. I might have to do those virtually. I mean, it's up in the air right now. It all depends on how things go over the next couple months. A lot of things will change. I mean, we just don't know if people are going to get on planes. I'm not a doom and gloom guy, but we just don't know what's going to happen. Will they go out to restaurants like tomorrow? Georgia's opening up, Monday restaurants and so forth. And some people will go out, some won't. But with us, my land event was in March. I was going to do it at a painting studio. That got pushed back till the end of April. Then they shut the state down till the beginning of May. So I pushed that back. I had my Dallas event in April. I pushed that back to October. I have my Minneapolis event coming up in May. We've kind of postponed that. It's just tentative where we're going to put it. And then all my receptions, June I have Philly, Boston in July, Cincy at the end of July,
Wow.
Detroit in October, New York in September. Will I be able to do that event in New York? I normally get 125 people at that reception. I have no idea. It depends on what happens in the Big Apple.
Yeah.
But
well, it's interesting because this is where you bring a lot of people from the construction industry and just retail companies, right? This is where you gather all those people. And Steve, being in the construction industry, Steve, what do you think about what's happening with his business, and in regards to you being in the school? You're the chair professor for New School of Architecture and Designs too, so I'm sure you're experiencing some of those things that are happening within the industry.
Yeah, well, with the school, yes, but in my regular business, I haven't been hit that hard as you two, because I know, Marie, you had some in-person events. A major event
I
that got
know,
canceled
right?
that
I
was
had
actually
to.
supposed to come up, I think, next week, into this week, I think
Yeah,
is what it was about that.
I was flying out for it.
Yes,
I
exactly. And I was supposed to
know.
speak there too. And so, yes, I've been affected that way because as part of the company, I do speaking events like that to educate people on the type of projects we do. And so those have gone by the wayside. I also do a lot of networking to meet people, one, to find buyers for our projects, to do work with potential investors for our projects. So all that's gone by the wayside. We've had to find other ways to work. The projects themselves have not been affected because our projects are long-term. And this, at least for now, and let's pray that it stays this way, is a short term. It's a short term medical emergency, and our projects tend to transcend that. We're not like a typical real estate project where you're in escrow and you've got 60 or 90 days it's going to close, and so the short term will really affect you. Our projects, our closest project to closing will be the one most affected. It's 6 to 7 months away from closing, and it might be affected because planning commission meetings may be bumped 60 to 90 days because those are closed public hearings, and that's an issue. And even if that extends, they'll find ways to do that virtually. City councils and planning commissions will have to continue to meet. They'll just have to find things a way around it, but they did lose a month or two there, and so we could get bumped on that. Our other projects are so far out, they're not scheduled to close for another, I don't know, 15 to 18 months. So we'll probably be okay on those, and it really won't affect us very much. Our consultants can still work. Most of the work is done by civils and environmental engineers and those kind of people, so that won't be a problem. Soils engineers, those kind of people. The school was very much affected. Now, I run two programs. One is a online Masters of Construction Management degree. Well, that wasn't affected at all. We were in a great position. It's the only online program out of the 9 programs the school offers that is online. And my faculty actually is mostly in Georgia, by the way. They're all out of Georgia Tech. So I have one San Diego faculty and the rest are all out of Georgia. And I go to once a year to Georgia for a faculty meeting there because it's easier for me to go there than all of them to come here.
Sure.
But so that wasn't affected. The only effect there was I keep having to remind them, everything that goes out to all faculty, ignore it because you're not changing anything right now. You keep doing what you're doing. But I have an on-ground program that's the undergrad program. And the other 7 programs of the school are also on ground. And that's been a major challenge. I've had a lot of time I've had to put in, being that our programs were the most advanced at being able to do online. And they were not. They're design-based. Design-based is very difficult to do online. Studio-based design is a hard thing to figure out how to transfer online when you're given 2 to 3 weeks to figure it out. They've been successful. It's worked, but it was a lot of work doing it. So yeah, my last few months have been crazy, trying to get all that put together. We just started a new term at the beginning of April. And so we had really 2.5 weeks to figure out how to go from on ground to online completely. And it was a lot of fun. And so I have some classes I teach, but mostly I administer the program, and it's all been pretty smooth transition in front of the scenes, but behind the scenes it was just chaos. It's it's on the surface, the duck is all nice and calm, but underneath paddling like crazy, going nuts. So that's kind of what it's been like.
Well,
so that's been what's been happening on my end through this transition. And I've been trying to also take advantage of venues like this, Marie, like you're offering, where I've been doing a lot more of the Zoom and those type of things, doing some videos to connect with people and kind of educate on what I think is going to be the real effect coming out of this for the house.
Okay. Well, I wanted to let people know that David has a magazine, right? That is for the construction. Can you explain more about that magazine?
Yeah, we're actually, I just got my magazine hot off the press. Here it is.
Great.
My March April issue with Midas Hospitality on the cover. Normally I'm at 180, 180 pages. This one was 148 pages. So a little collateral damage, but I'm still very healthy. And
has this change affected your circulation at all, David?
I print about 5,000 copies. I send out 27,000 digital. I've been around 20 years. So I used to have, 10 to 15,000 circulation, but as time is going on and digital is coming to play and online, Walmart, they might have a lot of employees, but there's probably about 10 guys that hold the budget, for construction facilities or development. So I don't need to send 100 copies to Walmart. I send, maybe, and who knows, who knows that's been furloughed or laid off. That was my biggest challenge with the printer was, I don't know who's going to get the magazine. Some of the offices are closed. Some people get it at their home address. So I just said, I'm going to put it out there. Some of the magazines like Condé Nast, they just shut their doors, Vogue magazine and so forth. I'm old school. I still like the magazine. Some of the people like it. Some people like getting it digitally. So that was that was a business decision that I decided to do. If you don't have all your eggs in one basket, if you just have a magazine, you probably won't survive, in my opinion, if you're a publisher. Myself, I have events, I do some other things. So, but still, it's been a challenge. With the magazine, I'm hoping that people will get the magazine eventually, once they get their mail and so forth, and that they're not scared to touch it, because they don't know how long the virus and all the fear and gloom and doom and gloom that's on the news. You just don't know.
I know.
And at the post office, half the guys are calling in sick. They have temps back there, and you're at the mercy of the post office. And we all know how the government, how efficient those guys are. They're doing a great job. I love them down there. But we printed it. It got mailed. I'm actually, right before you called, I was updating my sites because I'll send out my newsletter tomorrow with the new issue, and hopefully. But what I had to do is we decided we had to keep our name out there. So I started a CCRE Digest. We were doing some fun things with people and some profiles. We launched our podcast. I'm doing one a week at least.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
Well, let me ask you, because I still like the idea of getting a hard copy of a magazine. I mean, it's just different when you're looking at it, and it's a tangible thing that you like to touch and read that way. So I get the digital, but again, I think people have some sort of better feeling when you're looking at the magazine. It's just something about it.
Well, like in this year, this issue that I just put out, I just had the wrap up on our Jacksonville event. So I had about 16 pages in there in that section, pictures of all the things that we did, the seminars, the gala reception, etc. And the overall aspect of, I have a very loyal readership, whether they're furloughed or not. They'll see it online. A lot of these people I'm linked in with, so I probably have their Gmail accounts and their company accounts as well. I'm always adding people. I mean, my database, I probably have 50,000 live active emails that I've built up over my 20 years. But I sent out 27,000. 99% open rate. I have a few people that have bounced. That goes with anything, because people retire, they move to different companies, etc. So all of that still has probably been in play. I would like to keep the print magazine, but we'll see how it goes. Printers are manufacturers, so the biggest cost to me is actually getting the press set up. Once you get the press set up, adding paper and ink it's not like your price goes up. It's very minimal. It's the setup cost. Okay. So my printer has a minimum amount of issues that he wants to print in order for him, because he just wants the printing presses running. When they're running, he's making money. So that was a kind of a little frictional, talking to my printer saying, hey, I really don't want to do a full run, because I don't know how many of these people are at their offices. Will they get the issues? I didn't want to waste the postage or the paper. I want to be sustainable and so forth. But like you say, look, David, the difference between 3,000 copies and 5,000, you're a publisher, you've been around long enough, that it's $400 or $500. You might as well just send them all. And I said, you know what, just send them all, and we'll let the chips fall where they may.
Yeah. I do have a question in regards to the content of the magazine, because I know Steve has a lot of students from the New School of Architecture and Designs, and these are the upcoming professionals of the industry. Do you highlight this kind of people in your magazine, where you can talk about some of the students, and where they can also connect with the companies that you are connected to? I mean, because you have a lot of people, a lot of companies that go to your summit, and when you have this magazine, they have access to that.
Right. Labor is a big issue. A lot of the millennials, they don't want to get their hands dirty. I just did a podcast with a guy, senior PM of construction down at University of Texas Health Science. It's the largest health science facility in the world. Anyway, this guy, Brooks Herman, he started his career as a GC. Then he went to Francesca's, rolled out hundreds of stores. Then he went to Academy in the big box, and now he's on the campus. And we were talking about labor on our podcast this week, and I was trying to tell people, look, if you have a kid and he's going to go to school, don't send him to go get a liberal arts degree in basket weaving. Send him to a trade school and have him, because we need plumbers, electricians, drywall, welders, people that know construction management, become builders. Those are the people that, even if the government puts a big infrastructure bill, they're short on people that can do this stuff. And
so that's really good for you to talk about that, because Steve has been promoting that. I mean, that's what.
I just posted something last night about my website. A school had sent me a gig about scholarships and students, and whenever that kind of stuff comes in, I give them the ink on the web. Sometimes we'll put it in the magazine. It always comes up in discussions at our retreats about, when I went to school, there was wood shop. They don't do that anymore. They should.
Yeah.
And like my son, he's in FAA mechanic school right now, and he's supposed to graduate this summer, but because of the pandemic, he just finished avionics and engines and so forth. But right now in his last block, he's got to do online, but he'll graduate, and all the airlines are basically, Delta's has about 15% of its planes. 600 of them are parked down at Atlanta Hartsfield, but they all have to get maintenance, so they're still working. And I just said, just keep your blinders on, get your diploma, your license, and then you're going to get scooped up. But believe me, without the airlines, this country's not going to come back. They're all going to start flying again. The question is, how quickly will the public get on the airlines when they know it's safe and so forth?
Yes, Steve, I mean, I know that you had TV shows talking about women in constructions too. Remember that show that you did?
We also talked about trades. I had a master plumber on the show who had come up through the ranks, and he talked about both his parents were highly educated, and he chose to come into the trades, and that's what he did for a living. And he talked about why he did that and the number of people that he hires who he's able to help their families feed their families, by creating over the time a plumbing operation that has multiple trucks out on the road and those kind of things. He actually was on the board of one of the local plumbing councils, trade associations. So I had him. I did talk about two women that were in the construction industry, why they chose that, and why that is a very viable and desirable career for women, even if they don't know it is. And what their experience was. And the interesting thing was, they did acknowledge the fact that you have to think about going in an industry where you're mostly surrounded by a bunch of sweaty, smelly guys all day and use a porta potty. But at the same time, they acknowledge that they have the easiest time getting ready for work of anybody, because they have professional jobs. They're construction managers. They run crews. They are professionals. They're degreed professionals. But they don't have to worry about getting their hair done, because you're going to wear a hat all day, right? You get a hat head anyways. They don't have to worry about what they're going to wear, because it's blue jeans, the company shirt, and 6-inch boots every day, and a vest. So, and the eyewear. It's just what it is. You wear your PPEs. And they like that because they can sleep in an extra 30 minutes to 45 minutes every day, because they don't have to worry about getting all dolled up to go to work. It's a piece of cake. They go out and do their thing in the field. And they do very well. And the thing is, that the secret is that people don't know. For women in the construction industry, there is no pay gap. It doesn't exist. In fact, it might be reversed. And the reason is supply and demand. Companies all want them because they want to be more diverse, but there's not very many that want to do it. And so when they can find them, they will pay them. If they show up and act like they're interested, they'll get paid very well in the industry. And so I like to talk to people about those things that our society has spent 50 years telling people they shouldn't do. For 50 years and 3 generations, our entire public school system has taught people if you go into the trades or manual labor, you must be a loser. What a horrible, horrible message.
You could
That's
be
Yeah.
a
tragedy.
Wow.
millionaire if you're a plumber. Oh my God.
Well,
I
here's
mean,
the thing.
I told my son when he was deciding what he wanted to do, he wanted to be a mechanic for cars because he's a car junkie. And then he wanted to do motorcycle. I say, better go someplace warm because they don't ride bikes all year. I don't run my Harley. I only run it in the spring and in the fall. Too hot in the summer here. And then we decided, look, 600,000 people are going to retire on the airlines. Let's go that route. But I said, you know what? Let's go find someone that doesn't have a plumber, that doesn't have any kids to give his company to. Become an apprentice. You'll be a millionaire because everybody needs water. They all need it for water. They all need to take showers. They need that. You could do commercial you could write your own ticket. But he was like, "Oh, I'll get plumber crack jokes." I was like, "Come on,
what? And you know what?
Roll,
The people making those jokes, making those jokes are driving a used Kia, and they have a roommate to afford their rent.
Yeah,
and they're
exactly.
paying back, a huge amount of student debt, where you got paid to go to school. And the thing is, and I actually did this presentation about a year ago to a group, and it was a group of architects. And so I actually, my whole premise on it was the inverse relationship, in my experience, between compensation and prestige. And I talked about the projects that I worked on that have the highest prestige, because I worked on some that I see in postcards and I see on TV commercials and those kind of things. People recognize the buildings. Oh, that's so cool, you worked on that. Okay, well, it's construction manager, so I got paid well, salary and bonus. But then I actually got paid a lot better working in production housing, and nobody's really impressed by that. When you say, see that tract of homes, those 400, I built those. So people are going, oh, you're the guy who caused the traffic problem. I see. You're the urban sprawl, the suburban sprawl guy. And then now I just do the land. There's nothing to brag about. We don't design, engineer, or build a darn thing. We just provide the land and entitle it. You can't point to anything and say, I did that. What do you say? I had that in escrow. I drew a map on that. Nobody cares. Everybody in planning commission hates you when they show up. But the compensation's been much greater. And so my point at the end of it was, I pointed out to this group, the average salary for a master plumber in the United States and the average salary for a licensed architect in the United States. Both went to school, the plumber for 4 years in an apprenticeship program, and then some additional training as he worked through journeyman up to master level. The architect, 5 years is usually what's required as a terminal degree, and then you work for at least 2 to 3 years in a practice before you earn the right to take one of the most difficult professional exams that exist. And in the bottom line, the architect nationally makes about 71 to 72,000 a year on average, and the master plumber is about 106. And who makes the jokes? The plumber gets the jokes. Guess who's really making the money? And guess who had 5 years of tuition that had to be paid back in the form of student loans? The plumber did not. The plumber got paid and worked and went to school as an apprentice and got paid to go to school. So if we send the message out to people, now there is some truth to the fact that at some point you may not want to work manually as you get older because your body might start rebelling, because I did that. And sometimes your back and your knees hurt. And the truth is, plumbers, drywallers, roofers, concrete layers, ironworkers, they do a lot of physical work. And so by the time you get close, in your upper 30s to 40, your body might be saying, can we do something else? But you know what? You can still go back and get a different degree later on, or get a certificated, or if you work your way up, like a lot of the tradespeople do, you own your own business. That was the model. You apprentice and work under someone else and make all your mistakes on their dime as you learn.
It's amazing. My with his AMP license, even though he's certified by the FAA to work on anything that's got a jet engine, that's where he's getting recruited. Yep. He could go work on a train. He could go work for a healthcare facility. He could work at any of those types of He could go into the armed forces, go to boot camp, and he'd be an officer.
That's
and
right.
And so I told him, look, you're 21. You could write your ticket. You got people all recruiting you. You just put them all in there, and then at the end, you can figure out. But getting back to your women's thing, we do these 2 executive retreats, and they're the same formats. We do a 3-hour roundtable, we record them, and then we do 2 wrap-ups in the magazine. Same questions. The women's event is 100% completely different than the men. Mm-hmm. Just the answers, playing in a man's sandbox, getting respect. asking, hey, why am I not getting that, that pay, having to juggle children and all of those things. And it's amazing. Actually, the women's one, I like even better than the men's, because the men's, there's a lot of egos and testosterone in the room, and the women, it gets very deep in those conversations. I mean, it's just, but it's amazing. It's the same format, same questions, completely different. And
men, we tend to stop at news, weather, and sports when it comes to communicating.
Yeah.
Women will get into stuff and actually answer questions.
The big thing is, in retail, most of the people that are going into stores are women. That's right. A lot of the people that are designing these stores, women understand, hey, I need more room between the fixtures when I'm walking through the aisle, or I need the dressing rooms this way and that way. And they have more of an insight than, like, my wife would be much more of a person to ask questions about a retail store than I would, because I go into them, but I'm in it all day. The last thing I want to go do is look at another shopping center or a retail or a big box, and then what happened was, when I did the women's retreat, one of my subscribers came up to me. She said, why don't you just do this for women? And I said, I don't even know how many women I have on my subscription base. So when we looked at it, I was like, hey, there's actually a lot of women on here that are in here. We could actually do that.
That's good.
And then when we started our Lead Up our organization, this past year, we looked at how many women on there, and I was like, darn, shoot, half the workforce are females. We're looking for X amount to join that. So listen, without women, the country's not going to work.
That's true.
World War II, they built airplanes, and everybody's stuck together, just like here, right now. They're on the front lines, helping, and
I find they bring a different element. That's why the companies want them. That's why the companies that don't have them want more of them. Because, and I know there's a whole discussion on whether there's really a difference between genders and all that kind of stuff. I say, all you have to do is look. If you got two eyeballs, you can look and observe.
Oh, they're wired completely different.
Very different. And women bring a different thinking ability and multitasking ability. Guys tend to be very project focused, linear focused. Let's get this done. Let's knock this out. Women will have more of a broader picture and can usually process multiple thoughts simultaneously more than men can. Both are necessary. You need to have focus, but you also need to have a big picture. You need to be able to think about all the parameters going on and consider all the people, the relationships and how people are affected. At the same time, you need to focus on time, money, quality. And that's why true diversity to me is a diversity of thinking. Not so much about how people look, but the thinking. And the truth is that men and women in general are wired differently and bring a different type of thinking to the table. And all of it, it's the yin and the yang. The weaknesses of one is the strengths of the other. And if you can have a good team of the right diversity of thought processes, you have a much greater probability of success.
I like what I'm hearing from both of you. As a woman, surely I'm enjoying this conversation. I do have an idea, David, because I've been into your event. I was wondering, would you be able to create something where women can learn how to do some of the hands-on on plumbing, or being a mechanic, just for a short period of time within your event? Because we did some auto racing, we were throwing acts, we were doing virtual games during your event. I was thinking, if more for women to experience some of this, type of work, plumbing, mechanics, because I remember being interested about learning how to fix your car, and I couldn't really find a way to do that. But I mean, that's something that would be interesting, I think. Don't you think?
I'll tell you, a lot of the organizations, like the HVAC community, they have a women's chapter. The roofing guys, they have a women's group that's in there. So a lot of the different building products, they will have a women's sector. We actually last year, I hooked up with a couple of ladies that were in the McDonald's construction department. They had been there for years, and in transition, they were bought out, and we actually put together a women's in construction seminar down here in Atlanta in June, two summers ago, and it went well. We had almost 100 ladies. We had did a couple seminars, we did some meet and greets, we had lunch, and then we had a panel in the afternoon, covered it in the magazine. And then they wanted to do 3 last year with me. And at that point, at my women's event that I did up in Buffalo, we met the lady that was the New York chapter president of NABU, which is the National Association of Business Women Owners.
Yes, I'm familiar with that one.
So we were talking to her. I said, hey, do you have a newsletter? Maybe we could produce it. How does it work? And when we looked at it, my business partner on Lead Up for Women right now, she was at the little gym and built 500 stores. She was on my cover, and she really just wanted to help women. She had gone as far as she wanted, and wanted to, she said, look, instead of just being construction oriented, we should be much more broad, because if you just stay in construction, you're kind of limiting who you can reach. And there's 325 million people in the United States. At the peak, before the coronavirus hit in March, there was 170 million people in the workforce. If you cut it in half, more of them were most likely women. But let's say there were 65, 70 million women that were working in all sorts: insurance, doctors, construction, truck drivers, everything. And so we decided, hey, with Lead Up, we just would like to get a small sliver of that. So, but we want to go to everybody. So we went in that direction. And it's not to say that I wouldn't do it, but I put Lead Up in the magazine for the past year. And now I've we decided, we're just going to print it on our own, and I'm just going to run an ad for it. And the people that want to join, they can. But I would like to keep, a women's column in there, where we would do like a Q&A with a woman PM, and kind of take that every issue that, like we do with our women's retreat. And like I said, we ask the same questions, but it's amazing the responses that you get versus what you get on the on the men's side. And nothing against the men, it's a great discussion, but it's just completely different, because women are definitely wired differently than men are, and I've seen it. And I'm one of there's only 3 males at my women's conference: myself, my editor. And actually, I have a woman I do that to. The man used to do it. Now I have my Lead Up partner, Colleen Biggs. She's my moderator, and my photographer is a male. So we're the only ones there. So I get to kind of see this at firsthand. And
well, that's the same thing as what I experienced with the 2 TV shows that we have. One for Finest Women in Real Estate, and the other one is Real Men in Real Estate. I noticed that the discussion between the 2 shows are totally different. It goes more on the deep conversation on the personal level with the women, and the men are really focused on just heavy topic on the real estate. So it's totally 2 different formats. But here's one thing I wanted to get for people to get out of this conversation, is that if they are interested or just wanted to learn more about being part of construction, what can you guys tell them? What message you wanted to give them? And I will start with you, David.
Well, if you want to get into construction, the best thing in just general construction, whether it's residential or commercial, there are a couple big organizations out there. There's the AGC, which is the Association of General Contractors. They're national, they have chapters in every state. There's also the ABC, which is the Association of Building Contractors. That's more of a residential side, but they do have a commercial sector. Any construction project that you see with a sign on it, you can always go up there and talk to the superintendent and say, hey, how can I, get in, and so forth. Sometimes you're going to have to work your way down. There also is another organization called PMI, which is the Project Management International. And most of those people are involved in construction, where it's really connecting with people that are within the sector. And then you have to decide on where you want to go. Do you want to be a plumber? Do you want to be an electrician? Do you want to be in drywall? Do you want to be, in those different sectors that are in construction? And getting your name out there and being persistent. Like I said, there's a shortage of labor out there in the construction side. And I'll tell you, once this is all over, pharmaceutical and medical facilities are going to be booming in this country. They're not going to find enough people to get all that stuff done, and they're going to bring all those business, pharmaceutical production. It's going to leave China. It's coming back, not after what we just went through or are going through.
Okay.
But that would be my main thing is, hey, listen, you can Google any of those organizations. They're all up on the web, and get yourself involved and get your name out there.
Okay.
Sure.
What about you, Steve?
I would agree with David on looking at where the boom is going to be after all this. Not just the pharmaceuticals themselves, but all the accessory supplies like, say, face masks, gauzes, face shields, gloves, all that stuff. China cornered the market on, and so you're going to see a lot of that stuff coming back. I also look at a shift, and I actually put a video up on this. The design, the urban planning and land use and design trends of the last 20 years or so have really been pushing people to the urban environment, more people in smaller spaces, trying to avoid developing undeveloped property, more efficient use of resources, mass transit, those type of things. Basically, building up the urban cores and trying not to develop suburban and semi-rural and rural areas. However, what works to mitigate carbon footprints is the exact opposite of what you want to do if you're trying to prevent the spread of a pandemic. You don't want everybody in one place if you're trying to prevent the spread of a pandemic. I see a lot of people that maybe lived in their 1 to 2 bedroom or studio in the city, relied on mass transit, that just went through a quarantine period where the parks, the beaches, the hiking trails were all closed. The common amenities that make it okay to live in 500 or 600 square feet, like, say, your workout room, your lounge, your business center in your building, your pool deck, are all closed. So you're stuck just in your 4 walls. You can't avoid people because the elevator's got 20 people in it getting up to your unit. You can't get around because you relied on mass transit. I see a lot of people saying, you know what, I'm going back to the house in the suburbs. I want 4 walls. I want a yard. I want even if it's a small yard, I want to be able to step outside, breathe the air, see the sunshine, and not be fined for it or be harassed over it and have to wear a mask on it. I want a place where my family member who works in the medical field can be quarantined in their own room and not in where we live in a small 1-bedroom place. And I see 2 working adults that all of a sudden have to work remotely, and they're both trying to do Zoom calls with their work in no place where they're not talking over each other, while the kids are also trying to attend virtual school. That's insane. And that's what people have been dealing with. And I see there's going to be a big demand back for the single family home again, even if the people trying to push the policy are trying to keep that urban development and the tiny homes and the accessory dwelling units and all that stuff pushing. I see a lot of people wanting to move back out to suburbia, especially since now they know they can work remotely. A lot of companies may not. Some people will go back to work, but a lot of companies are going to say, you know what? I don't need to lease this much square footage. I can have a lot of my people working remotely now. Save a lot of money in commercial.
Oh no, that's going to be one of I just wrote about it in my column about people are going to figure out that they can work from home. They don't need to sit in rush hour. They don't need to spend the gas and all the stress and all of that. They can maybe they have to go in the office once a week or a couple times a month. The guy from UT Health, he said that a normal meeting would take an hour. Now on Zoom, it takes 20 minutes.
That's right.
Yes, that's true.
Yeah, and there will be times that you have to go in and connect.
But as human beings, we're social animals. So,
that's right.
So if you want to close a deal, and you're still going to have face to face. You know, it's not like you can close a deal and someone, hey, I want you to build these 100 stores, and you're going to have and people are not going to be stuck in their homes. They want to get out and do things.
But you don't have to be in one place 8 to 10 hours a day in your office anymore. You don't have to do that. Some people will. Most people won't. And again, companies are going to look at this as a financial thing and say, wait a minute, we can lease a third of the square footage. Have a conference area, training room, and key essential things. Yes, we need a place for the IT server and the IT tech people. Yes, we need a receptionist desk. Yes, we need, maybe even payroll processors can be done remotely now. So only a few people ever need to actually go into the office. And so you're going to see a change. Now, I want to get back to Marie's original question on what about people wanting to get into construction? I'm going to say first, what does that mean? Construction is an enormous industry with so many facets to it. And you got to decide, where do you want to be? Do you want to build water treatment plants? Do you want to build bridges? Do you want to build houses? Do you want to build high rises? Do you want to build hotels? Do you want to build schools? Do you want to build prisons and courthouses? Do you want to build parks? There's so much out there that you can build. So decide what excites you. What do you like to work on, and where do you most likely want to work? Because geography will play a lot into this too. Secondly, do you want to work in the trade end of it, or do you want to work in the management end of it? Those are two different things. One requires a college education. One requires, and technically it doesn't require it, but it should, and that is require a good apprenticeship training program. There are people, if you're going to go into the labor side of things, get trained to be a professional in your field, and then decide what trade is that. Am I looking at more of a general type stuff, or do I want a specific trade? David already mentioned that, which was the drywall, steel, concrete, roofing, windows and doors, interior, whatever it is, painting, whatever it is you want to specialize in, and then learn your craft and do it well. And there's also generalists. The generalists are the people that are more the superintendents, the people managing the jobs overall. They may be the people that are buying the materials, the procurement people. So decide where in the industry. Do you want to work in commercial or residential or heavy civil, or do you want to work more in the industrial side of it? Because those are all different things. Do you want to work in contracting? Do you want to work in construction management? Do you want to work in design? Those are all different things with very different requirements. So first, do the homework, do the research, talk to people, and decide where you want to go, and then start from where you want to end up and plan backwards to where you are now to figure out where to get there. How are you going to fund it? Do you have to attend a school that's out of the way? Do you have to move somewhere? Do you have to take certain tests or certifications to qualify before you can even get into those programs? Figure all that stuff out. So that's how you want to get into the construction business, is figure out where do I want to be, and then what's the path to get there?
Well, one thing that I think that is also important for people to think about if they wanted to get into the construction and learn is to find people that are experienced in the industry, because I know there's a lot of professors there and teachers that are, talking about the principles of the program. But if they don't have the hands-on experience, I think it's harder for people to learn from that when they can learn directly from the people that are experts and they've done many years of experience in the building industry. Don't you think?
And that's where doing your research. For example, where I teach, every single faculty member is an industry person. Every single one of them. We don't hire based on PhDs because we don't care. That's fine if they have it, but the truth is we'd rather have the people that not only have experience, but they have recent experience. Because if you worked in the industry 40 years ago, then what you know is 40 years old. And every one of our faculty, including myself, work in the industry every single day and also teach. When you get to the large universities and you get into these construction, architecture, engineering programs, generally you have a faculty of doctorate level people that have either never worked in the industry or have been out of the industry for decades. And so they are teaching you what they learned 30 or 40 years ago, and then what the textbooks and articles say are what's currently going on. They do a lot of research, but they don't do it. In fact, one of the largest state polytechnic university in California had a grant given to them by the NAHB a few years back. The grant was to send their CM faculty to summer internships. Now, see, that's a backwards idea. I think it was brilliant, because one of the people that came in was a guy that came out of the home building industry during the recession, became an educator, got his PhD, and was now working in the university. And he realized that his cohorts had zero experience actually working in the industry. And if they had any experience, it was decades old. And so this grant was to not just have students go do internships, it was make the faculty go do internships in the summer and work on projects for companies doing real things. And I think it was one of the best things they ever did. The idea that that is necessary or wasn't thought of before, it just befuddles me. Because I'm with you, Marie. If you don't know what's going on currently and can't do it, you should not be in the position of teaching people. Now, I get that there are people that retire out and they can teach, and that's not a problem, but I don't think that should be the majority of who's teaching out there. That's one reason I work at I've worked in 3 different colleges and or universities, and the 2 that I liked the best were the ones that relied on faculty that were not doctorate level and didn't have a lot of publications and research behind them. What they had was everyday experience working in many facets of the industry. And to me, that was the most important thing of
That's
all.
actually really
When you
good.
get to the
And
trade
David,
program,
for
the
your
apprenticeship program,
magazine,
you'll be taught by people that
We have on my editorial board, I have two academias. One, I went to University of Denver, I'm a PIO. Anyway, his name is Dr. Levine. He runs the Daniel School of Business and the construction management side.
that's actually got a very good reputation. We see them in our competitions a lot.
Right.
Yeah.
But he's been on my board, but he also is involved with a lot of the construction that's going on, on campus. And I just went to an alumni meeting here a couple of weeks back, maybe a month ago, and we had the director of sustainability, real young guy, for the city of Atlanta. His parents own Ted's Montana Grill.
Oh, that's a great place. Yeah.
Yep, and has a construction bit, but it was all social justice and all these other things that I didn't really think about. And normally I would be, I'm on the other side of the fence on it, but there were some really good things that the gentlemen had. And then they had the director of sustainability from DU that they were talking about all the things that they were trying to do to be carbon neutral with solar panels and this and energy and collecting water. I mean, it's Colorado, so it's got that granola thing going on. But the other gentleman is from the hospitality side. He's a hotel owner. He builds hotels and he teaches at one of the universities in California. So he just like you said, he's got his hands on, and he's not old school. He's kind of got both worlds, but he's actually still building. So he's got old as well as new concepts or knowledge that he can give his students and so forth. Those are the people that you want.
Yeah. So I wanted to continue. Go ahead, Steve. What's
the basic concepts of construction haven't changed in thousands of years. The idea of project management, putting a sequence of activities together, marshaling your materials, labor, equipment, contractors, consultants, putting all that together. And things like masonry isn't that much different than what it was when the Egyptians were doing it. On the other hand, we're doing virtual design and construction, building information modeling. We're doing complex scheduling using things like Primavera systems and stuff. That's where the technology and the new stuff comes in. And there's also that whole green and sustainability piece that comes in that is being driven a lot, not just by design trends, but also by codes that we have to know, and safety issues that come in, and climate control issues that come in that are all more modern. And so construction is a mix of never forget the basic principles that we've been successfully using throughout humanity's history. And at the same time, don't be afraid of introducing the new ideas, innovations, and technologies that make it better, more efficient, more effective, and to serve people at a greater level.
Okay. Well, this is amazing. I mean, I wish I can extend this, but I know that there's a lot more information that we can share. I'm truly thankful for both of your time and the information that you've given to everyone in this show. It's definitely going to be beneficial. One thing I wanted to just ask you, if people want to reach out to you, what is the best way they can contact you? David, how can they reach to you?
Best way to get in touch with me is email at davidc, like cat, davidc at CCR, that's Charlie Robert, and then a small dash or a hyphen, and then mag, michaelapplegeorge.com, davidc at ccr-mag.com. If you want to be a subscriber, go to ccr-mag.com. Up on the toolbar, there's a subscribe button. Hit it, subscribe. They come right to me. I'll add you to the mailing list, and all my magazines are up there digitally. You can see everything that we do, but that's the easiest way to get to me. davidc at ccr-mag.com.
All right. What about you, Steve?
Well, if they want to get to me and talk about our projects where we buy land, entitle it, and sell it to builders, provide R1 and like commercial land, that's Coast to Coast Equities. And so the website, the best way to get hold of me there, www.coast2coast.com. So coast2coast.com, but it's a dash and a number 2 between the two coasts.
Okay.
If they want to talk to me about education, for example, we talked about how to get into education. If they're interested in talking to me, they don't have to come to the school I work at. I work at New School of Architecture and Design in downtown San Diego. But there's a lot of, there's hundreds of great programs across the country. As I mentioned, we see them in the competitions, and I would recommend most of them. They're great. find out works best, but I'm happy to answer questions on those. So, and we have an online master's degree in construction. If you're in something else and you already got bachelor's and you want to work into construction that way. That is New School of Architecture and Design, and that's New School Arch, NEWSCHOOLARCH, newschoolarch.edu. My email address is smatley, SMATLEY, @newschoolarch.edu. Contact me there if you have any questions about education or learning about construction. If you have interest in more projects or how we fund things or who we sell to or why we do what we do on the company side, Coast to Coast Equities and coasttocoast.com.
All right.
Marie, after meeting Steve here, if we would have been able to come out and seen your event, I'm sure we could have put our heads together and come up with a program that we could have done out there in
I know
SoCal.
we can still do
Absolutely.
it, David, especially now that we can do online events. So definitely you and I just need to connect and talk about it. I have a way to do that here. So let me know, okay? I am so
one more thing before we go, Marie. Can I say
Yes.
one more thing? David, send me a link to your magazine website at my school email, and then I will forward it to the librarian, and we'll see if we can get the library to subscribe to your magazine.
Yes,
Make
awesome.
it available to our students. The electronic version would be better for our students.
Okay.
Awesome. I think that would be nice because I can even envision it where the New School of Architecture is part of your magazine and the students are benefiting from your company and all your events. That would be amazing. All right. Well, so thank you. And again, we will schedule another call in the future and hope you guys have an amazing week. And again, God bless you all. Okay.
Thank you for hosting, Marie. We appreciate it.
All right. Thank
Stay
you.
safe out there.
Bye-bye.
See ya.